Business Today here on 102.3 Kiss FM. Jess, the African Son, I'm your host. I'm speaking to the managing director at Blue Flamingo. They are a digital advertising agency. Timothy, good to have you here on Business Today.
Thank you, and good afternoon.
I understand it's your very first time for you to appear in a radio conversation.
This is the first time and I'm really excited. Thank you very much for having me.
How's it been for you in this COVID era?
Well, quite a question, eh? I wouldn't say it has really been very, very easy. Like most people might think like, hey, you guys have digital marketing and all that your business has been running and so on and so on. But just like other businesses, it has really taken a hard toll on us as well. The same way businesses have been affected, because look at it like this. Once the lockdown came into place, most of our clients were like, you know what, we're not working. Think of about clients, let's say in the tourism industry, you know, as much as posting was going on, a bit of content creation here and there, which was limiting into what material we had, a bit of engagement here and there. But remember, they're not making any sort of cash income back. So cash flow, of course, is an issue. Salaries and so on and so on. But we're doing it pretty well. We're privileged enough to say that we're still running strong. It's a blessing, actually. We're not able to lay off any employee or do any salary cut.
Really?
So it was a blessing on our side. But we felt it.
That means you have had some money kept aside to keep the business running.
Yes. I would say we did have a bit of cash flow in place, and also the help of group. Blue Flamingo actually based in 5 African markets. That's Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, and Nigeria. So having the strength of group, we're able to quickly come together, all the stake players, the heads and so on, quickly strategize, how do we do it, who is suffering, how do we bail out. And we depended heavily in their support as well, to be able to keep running and muscle through this difficult time.
Tell me about your company, Blue Flamingo. What is it really all about?
Okay. Thank you very much. Blue Flamingo, a Pan-African creative marketing agency. We started off as a digital creative agency, but with the way the market started panning out, where we got a lot of clients who insisted like, hey, we'd rather have one agency other than dealing with different people. That's when now in most market we started venturing into 360, where we started now putting in the muscle and expanding to the 360 field. So we had to adapt. This was even way before the COVID and all that. We had to adapt the market requests, strategize, structure ourselves to be able to accommodate any sorts of jobs that are coming in that require 360. We've been in existence for quite a while. Last year, actually, we celebrated 10 years.
Wow.
Into the marketing field.
Is that 10 years for Africa's Blue Flamingo or 10 years in Rwanda?
For Africa's Blue Flamingo. In Rwanda, actually, we're celebrating 6 years. We haven't yet hit 10 years.
That's pretty interesting. Who are some of the clients that you have been serving?
Well, in Rwanda, we have quite a vast of clients that we're currently serving. We also have quite a big number of clients that have passed through us as well. I can start with some of the former clients that we've had. We've had Rwanda Air. Rwanda Air started off with us. So we have Akagera Aviation. We have Primus, Rwanda, during the Guma Guma era. The current clients that we have now, we have from EcoBank. We have Chambers of Tourism. We have BLD as well. Those are some of the current clients that we have, and KFC as well. That's KFC Rwanda. Yeah.
I thought you were the guys working with Airtel at some point.
Yes. Airtel also passed through us until recently, when also they restructured and they had to take up a group agency that was in different African market. And that's how now we lost it to another agency that's now handling the whole of Africa.
Okay, tell me, with all these clients that you serve and the clients that you have been serving, how would you generalize their approach towards marketing within this market?
Well, truth be told, I feel as if Rwanda when you talk about marketing, it's kind of an understatement of some sort. Most of these businesses that we've seen here, they really don't invest much into marketing, I would say.
Because they do not understand the critical importance of marketing, or because Rwanda is such a small market, word of mouth could as well suffice for marketing?
They do. Most of them, they do understand the importance of marketing. But what normally happens is, like, most of them, they want to tie it into sales. They want to see immediate returns. So every time, like, let's say they want to do a campaign out there, they're always looking into what am I putting in, what am I gaining in, right? Which is actually supposed to be the case. But you see, marketing can come in two ways. You might get the direct sales, and you might get the wrong line sales that might come out of the effort that you guys put sometimes back. That might not reflect immediately into your cash box. You know, it's all about creating awareness who you are as a brand. At that particular time that you're promoting a particular product, it might come relevant to some people that might see the need to have the product there and then. But also, there's some people that might not be needing your product at that particular time. But at least the message is going to cut across and it's going to stick in them. And at the time when they come and they really need this particular product, that's when they'll go ahead and purchase. It might be even 3 months to come before they start actually purchasing your product or adapting to your product and what you're selling.
But is it wrong to expect a sale every time you go out to make a message of marketing?
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. I wouldn't say it's wrong. It's actually an added advantage, which is really good. But what normally happens if, like, you let your judgment crowd you in that direction, you never invest in marketing. You never go out of your way because you feel it's quite expensive. You know, we've seen a lot of brands, these international brands, that really spend heavy in marketing until when you look at an advert, you're like, what are they trying really to gain? Take a look at a brand like Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola would be everywhere. They've spent billions and billions of money in dollars just marketing their brand. But what is the long run effect? Everybody knows the brand. Anytime that you want a soft drink, and you've seen actually in most markets where we have businesses that want to venture into such a market for soft drink, they've actually struggled battling up with Coca-Cola. We've seen a lot of brands that have come and gone. Take a look at some of the brands locally here that I've also tried. We've seen some competitors in Uganda, our neighboring brothers, some competitors in Kenya. There's a soda I remember back home in Kenya. It was called, I think, Babito something. It no longer exists. You know?
They tried and they failed.
They tried and they failed. But we see the approach that Coca-Cola took. They really stick it to everybody, that until to some point, I've actually come to realize here in Rwanda, every soda is Coca.
Because of the power of marketing.
Because of the power of marketing. Every soda you go, you say, I want a Coca. The first time I came here, actually, I had a lot of trouble. Because every time you tell, let's say, a waiter, I want a Coca, it's still standing there like, which one? I'm like, Coke Zero. Which one is that one? You know? Or is it Fanta, Citro? Basically, they want some options. Until now, you specify, you're like, I want Coca Fanta, Orange, or something like that.
Very interesting. Most brands have pulled back budgets, you know, on marketing. You think it's a good idea? Because it is COVID, yes, I know we have to empathize with brands, but most of these brands are pulling back on their budgets, so we cannot be pushing products when the economy is not at its max.
I wouldn't say it would be the best move to take, because what's happening right now is like most businesses in Rwanda, they had a different way of marketing, which they considered marketing was more of like BTL activation.
That's below the line.
That's below the line. Where let's say they go out there, they want to get into the ground, interact with people, and that's where most of the spends were going. And then they'll focus on something like, let's say, radio, you know. SMS is not as big. When you talk of billboard, it's not as huge here in the country. So they were really focusing on BTL. That's below the line. So when the COVID really hit, you find like the way they had structured themselves is to go out there into the ground and interact with people. They had everything laid out. They had their budget already locked in. But what I can advise now, it's time to rethink in which direction should we go. Because what happens, there are those brands that really did it very well, but there are those ones that actually had done nothing or had not started doing anything. And what will happen actually, they'll get forgotten mostly. Like somebody will be like, so if I want this particular product, how can I get it? How is it available? Because I think that's now the key message that needs to be out there.
You need to mention that again. Is it possible for a brand to be forgotten?
Yes, it's possible for a brand to be forgotten.
Forgotten that you exist, or forgotten in the context that you would not be first priority if I'm looking for a service of the nature that you provide?
So what happens is that if I start using a particular brand, there are those that we call complementary products or services that I'm getting. Let's say, like, for instance, I'm used to use this particular kind of product, and I'm no longer seeing them in the market. You're no longer talking to me.
Or you no longer hear about them.
I'm no longer hearing about you. Yes, I know where to find you. But you see, you're leaving it room for competition now to start talking to the same consumer. Like, hey, by the way, we exist. We're also offering this and this and this. And then what happens is, like, this consumer at one particular time, based on the advertisement they're seeing, like, you know what, it's not a bad thing. Let me actually try this particular brand. And then you never know, you might have lost this consumer there and then. They might actually discover something different that they're getting there. Or it might not even be different. It might be a mind game of some sort.
You're giving room for
Yes.
the consumer, your customer today, to be impressed by someone else.
By somebody else. And they easily actually would in that direction. And you never know now the habit that's going to come as a result of that. Maybe now they will start maybe consuming that particular brand. And you remember, for you don't know. So within a very short time, you find like you've become irrelevant. You know? We've seen at a particular time most brands even rebrand from the way they look, from the packaging, from everything, because they realize at some point, hey, we need to re-enter the market again in a new, different look that is more appealing to the change of preferences of different consumers. So I feel marketing is really good, and it will put you top of mind every time the consumer wants this particular service.
Talk to me about, from the experience, conversations that you're having around in the market. Where have these brands been hit mostly when you talk of marketing, sales, IT, and other related sectors? Where do you find that this pandemic has hit them so much that they have to start rethinking?
Yes. What I've seen is most businesses, no matter the sector you're in, you've heavily been hit in terms of cash flow. That's number one. Cash flow in the sense of, like, everybody now has already been hit. Remember, you're in the same storm but using different boats. Businesses are affected differently. So you might have this particular client that you use to supply these kind of goods. They're also hit. They're expecting cash flow from whatever clients they're servicing. So at some point, they will come and tell you, you know what, we are no longer making business this side. Let's reduce the ratio that we used to take, or let's cut completely the supplies that you used to provide us. We've seen them actually fire a lot of employees as well. You know, what that one did is actually, because it was abrupt, they realized, hey, we no longer have the cash flow to continue paying these salaries, or if we continue like this, we'll not afford them in the months to come. Let's cut down on some of the workforce that we have. Some of them, they might not be, it doesn't mean that they're not important, but maybe at that particular time they're a bit less important. But remember now, the way the business was structured, they haven't like restructured the whole of it afresh. So there's some gaps that you find in the way they used to deliver before and how they deliver it now, right? Things like sales. Most people actually heavily dependent on face-to-face kind of sales, where they have shops, somebody needs my product, walks in, buys, and so on and so on. But what happened is, like, they realized during the lockdown, it's time to go online. People are buying online. There are all these delivery services that are coming in, but we're not ready for this. And now they start wondering, how do I start? Where do I go? What do we do? You know, let's give it a while, maybe the lockdown. And remember, even the way the communication was done, nobody knew it would take this long.
It came in phases.
It came in phases, you know. They'll come, they say, hey, the situation is getting worse, or let's try and control it. You know, let's try out a lockdown, let's say 14 days, and then we see what's going to happen. So most businesses at first, they were like, let's first give it a wait and see what happens. Maybe the small channels that we have, the small sales that you're making, let's see without this. And then after the 14 days, it came another phase, and then another, and it became a month, 2 months, 3 months. And that's when now they started feeling it, like, hey, we're no longer selling. There's no more sales. And actually, I think most people now started to look in ways on how do we make these sales so that the cash flow can come back in, and then we'll be able to run operation as normal.
Case business today, and we're looking at trends in marketing. As most brands cut back on their marketing budgets, we want to find, is it justifiable? Does it do good service to the business? Or should you be rethinking on what other things you can do with your budget? Now that you can't be doing below the line because of isolation, you can't do events, you can't gather people, what else can you do to keep in the face of your customer, to keep top of mind, to keep a preferred brand? Team, talk to me about what trends are we likely to see then? Or if you sat in front of your client, what are you likely to be telling them to do? They can't do below the line. They can't do billboards. They can't spend so much because they cannot expect really so much. But what is it that they can do now?
Thank you, Jess. There are a lot of things that businesses can do now, and what we're actually talking with our clients, it's how do we now restructure ourselves to accommodate digital when it comes to selling? How do we make sure that the business is more relevant when it comes to online and engaging consumers where they are? Some of the things that we've seen is a lot of people now working from home. So working from home, even during the lockdown, they'll just rush out a bit, go to the shop, come back. So let's say all the strategic places that you had put in place, let's say, to communicate to this particular audience might not be effective. Town was almost like a ghost town. I remember at some point I drove around town, it was actually empty, totally empty. You would think actually rapture happened. And people were taken and you're left in the streets. Some of these movies that we normally see as if they're coming to pass,
Yes.
So if these consumers are home, what are they doing home? What kind of equipment are they using to engage? Let's say they're watching TV, they're on their laptops working, they're on their phones, they need to keep in touch. How are they keeping in touch? They are using different services that are out there. They are making calls using Zoom. So what can we sell to them that's going to make it easy for them? Something that actually I saw really disappointing, it's more of the furniture kind of industry, because I thought like they'll come out and they're like, hey, we know you need to set up your office home. We have this kind of package for you. I really didn't see a lot of that, them offering tables and workstations that are suitable for home. You see, these are all opportunities that people would have, jumped on real quick. We've seen things like delivery services. We've realized like a lot of people are ordering online. So how can I approach these people? Setting up small things like brochures, flyers that can go with these particular packages, just to market what you're selling out there. These things like telemarketing, just picking up a simple phone call and you're like, hey, let me reach out to my clients. Where are they? What are they doing? Let me tell them, hey, now we're doing this and this and this. Things like digital marketing, that's social media. Remember now they're trying to connect with their friends, their loved ones, their workmates, wherever they are. What are they doing? What are they doing differently? What are they up to? Things like social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Actually, it's a big trend during the lockdown. Really boomed real big because of the content that people are creating, which is interesting. Things like newsletters. A lot of business even didn't reach out to their consumers to let them know what's happening. You already have their email addresses, you know where they are, you know them. Things like simple newsletter like, hey, let's say we are closed, but this is what you're doing, these are the measures that we're putting in place. Most businesses never communicated. They just went quiet and off and off and off. But some of them that did it, they really did it well. They were able to send out like a newsletter, reach out to them because they know they'll be working, they're home. Some of them went on TV, some of them went on radio, and so on and so on. These are all places which now we can now customize to reach out to these particular consumers. Things like also communicating to them what are some of the safety measures that you've put in place. Let's say they have to drive or walk, come to your shop. What are some of the safety measures that are in place? Out of just a simple communication like that, they might feel you're more safer to shop. It's more safer to shop at your place other than someone else, because I feel as if you're taking all these measures into place and it's going to work for me. Yeah.
So for most of the brands that have not done anything, what do you think, where do you think is the problem?
So what actually happened is most of them were not ready. They were not digital ready. Most of the brands, like actually we tried to reach out to even before the lockdown, they never saw the relevance of going online. Nobody knew this is going to come. Some of them, yes, they had plans to go online, and it came at such a time that they were trying to figure it out. How do we go online? How do we position ourselves? And then boom, this thing happened that nobody had anticipated to happen anytime soon or ever happen at all. It's not the end of the road. They never went into it, but it's not too late. They can just start by a simple message to their consumer database on some of the measures that now they're taking. Because, like it or not, businesses are changing the way they do business.
Business is changing. Things are changing. You mentioned something that they were not digital ready. And I think, for me, it's in the interest to know, how does a brand get themselves digital ready? Look, last night, new information was shared of how many patients we have and the additional patients of COVID-19. 31 yesterday new cases were mentioned. And that sends a message that we could switch back to where we began from, another trend of lockdowns, because of an increasing number of patients that we have in the country. And that could change dynamics. Yes, we are out now trading, of course, not at full capacity, but if these new cases keep rising, you might find one district is cut off, another is cut off, and eventually the entire country is cut off if we do not change our behavior. So with this uncertainty of what might happen tomorrow, we up and about, how do I position myself as a brand, as a company, to be digital ready so I'm not caught by surprise?
First of all, I want to commend the efforts of the government of Rwanda to what they've done in easing the situation and making it possible for us to be out and working again. They've really done a commendable job. Even globally, as we see other people struggling, Rwanda has really done it well. The first thing that I'll always tell my clients, the first place they need to own a website. It doesn't have to be so complicated. It doesn't have to be state of the art. Even if it's as much as just registering a domain, like, hey, I'm called so and so, this is my domain, and then you just create a simple landing page. It doesn't have to have all the content of what you do at the moment, but you can have a simple message as, hey, you can reach us through these particular numbers. If it's delivery, kindly follow this particular link. Basically, a place where your customers can find information. Now, the other option, and we always advise our clients, they need to be out there on social media. They need to get a simple Facebook account, create a Facebook page for their brand, go to Twitter, go to Instagram. They don't have to be in all these platforms at once. Basically, look at the ones that are more used in Rwanda, where actually your consumers are. Create a profile. Get somebody, at least the minimum, to be responding to some of the queries that are coming in and engaging. And then, since nobody knows the future and what's going to happen, I actually saw a funny meme when I was coming here. Somebody had posted like, what if 2020 is a trailer of 2021? What happens?
That would be disastrous.
But
the real action is up next.
It's up next. You never know. Nobody knows the future apart from God, and you don't know what the future has in store for us. But also, it's good like to start preparing now in case anything of this sort might happen again. Start correcting a simple database as well, other than just setting up this particular social platform. Start now having measures in place. How do we correct simple phone numbers, email addresses for our consumers? I'm not saying like afterwards you start harassing them, because that's how you're going to chase them very quickly away.
Sending several messages.
That's how you chase them away. But now with this process, you'll be able now to strategically be prepared. And even as assuming the lockdown come, you have a channel where you're going to start free of charge to start now communicating to them. Setting up social media, it's free. Setting up a simple domain for your company, it's as low as 13,000 Rwanda francs, which is really affordable.
That's when you're using the Akadomo Rwa.
you know, all these places are there to help us to be able to set up this. But most businesses, they thought, they need heavy budgets to go online. They need to have heavy developers to be able to sustain their website and so on and so on, but which is not the case. So if they can start positioning themselves in this particular direction, I think it will be a good start.
Let me ask you this question, particularly regarding Blue Flamingo, your clientele, and your experience. I wanted to ask you a question. How are people or companies that you're serving responding to your kind of service, especially digital?
Okay. So the customers that we have right now, they're really happy with the service that we've given them. I'm sure if you picked a phone call and talked about Blue Flamingo, you wouldn't hear any bad comment from any of our clients. That one I can attest to that, because some of the clients that we've had, it's based on referral. We've never advertised. This is my first radio interview, actually. Believe it or not, but we've been in the market from 2014. And the way we've gotten clients is through other clients referring us. Hey, there's this digital agency that we've worked with. Talk to them, they listen, they're able to give you a customized package, and so on and so on. And the best thing with digital, it sells itself. Anybody can just go look them out, check their platform, and I'm sure they'll be impressed in what they find.
Look, how do you justify digital, especially in Rwanda? 12 million people, a handful that are connected to the internet. How do you justify digital marketing for the Rwandan market to have the return on the investment in that direction?
Thank you. You see, let's first go to the definition of what is digital marketing. As of Google, if I'm not wrong, digital marketing is more of using this online platform to be able to market to people. What kind of platforms are we talking about? These are platforms where you're able to exchange some sort of content. Maybe
it's essential.
These are platform or tools that will enable you to exchange content
yes,
with people. So maybe in form of picture, text, audio. So once we break it down like that, now it's when we start asking ourselves, which are these platforms? Platforms like, yes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But you see, it doesn't stop there. Things like email, it's the platform for digital. Things like SMS is a digital platform. Things like the TV platform that are out there and people are watching, the different stations, radio stations. All these are platforms that we can say they're digital platforms. So how do you now justify in terms of return of RIO, which is return on investment, once you start marketing using this particular platform? It comes back now to how you've set your campaign. Because where most brands get it wrong is like they feel if, hey, we've done the commercial poster, here it is, we've gotten it, we've published on Facebook, now let me sit down and wait and see the money coming in. But you see, it doesn't stop there. Because we've had some clients that have really come and they've been hard on us, like, hey, I don't see these numbers of like, I don't see these numbers of comment, I don't see these numbers of shares. But now they forget it doesn't stop there. There's a lot that involves in this, and that's where most brands are failing. Now, there's something that is called a reach. Once, whatever social platform that you put out, let's say like, for instance, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you might get even as much as 2 likes on a particular post. But if you're an admin on that particular page, you're able to see, hey, out of these 2 likes, I've gotten this number of reach. Let's say it might be 200, right?
200 people have been able to view this content.
Yes, view this content. Basically, that's what it means. It has reached 200 unique people who have seen my content, but now I only have 2 likes, or 0 comment, or 0 like. So now that's when you start asking yourself, these 200 people, why didn't they react to my product or whatever I'm selling?
They're not interested.
What am I doing? Are they not interested? Is there a problem? What can I do different to start engaging them? Now, we have tools online that are able to dig out this. We have things like tools like Social Bakers, we have tools like Hootsuite and Google Analytics and so on and so on. There are quite a number of them, which actually most of them don't come for free as well, you know. And such tools are able to help you analyze this kind of content. Like out of the 200, who are they? Some of the platforms themselves, they have some of these analytics setups already by free, by default. Who are these people? Where are they located? What's their age group? You know? Now, assuming you posted a post, and out of the 200 people that you reached, and then you realize the demographic is between 18 and let's say 20. And let's say the product that you're doing or the message that you're trying to post, you're targeting people between the demographic of 25 and 35. So basically it means these people have actually been engaged with this particular content, but this content is not speaking to this particular audience. So what does it mean? It means you need to go back now to the kitchen and draft some sort of content that is going out to engage these kind of people. Now, here is where most brands get it confused. So they think, hey, once I get an agency, tomorrow I'll start seeing numbers coming in. But it's all an experiment, right? So based on the brief that you've given, let's say a particular agency or the professional that you've gotten, it's more of like, hey, this is the kind of content I've created. Who am I engaging? Why am I not engaging this person? Let me try this content like this. Why am I not engaging this particular person? And if this person is an expert and really knows what he's doing, he's going to find a level. A level in the sense of the persona, in the sense of the content that they're creating, in the sense of like the engagement that they're engaging with these particular people. They'll start seeing the right audience that are targeting them. Now, back to the campaign that you're setting up. What are some of the measures that you've set up to ensure that you're able to capture this return of investment? Because remember, I might see a product online, I might not engage with it, but I'll go out there and buy. But on the report this side, if you haven't put measures, let's say like for instance, like we said on the website where people can buy or something like that, you never know actually this particular person saw it from there, right? So some of the international brands, what they do, even when you go and you buy a product, even if it's at the shop, you see somewhere when you read in their documentation or branding somewhere, they might even ask you as simple as like, hey, where did you hear about us from? And then even they might give you options or choices or something like that. I'm sure you've tried to subscribe for a site, and then somewhere a small pop-up comes, and then they ask you, hey, where did you get to hear us from? You know, some brands, they've actually set up a good platform where you can actually purchase. So for them, they're actually able to see them in real time. Because based on the effort that they're doing and the product is available there and then, let's say there's a delivery in place, the customer just needs to use whatever platform of payment they're using, and then they're able to click, fill in the information, then they purchase. So this data is available in real time. So those ones are able to see it directly as it's happening, and every time person is buying.
Who sees this kind of data? Is it the admin of the digital sites? Or is this information later processed and sent to management for use in making decisions?
Thank you. So it depends on the measures that you guys have set in place as an organization. So what happens is like, because digital is the front side, there are systems behind it. Let's say like you've built a system that is able now to accept payment or sell. You have a system for delivery. These are different systems that the consumer might not see. But now in the back end, as management, you'll be able to know who has access to a particular system. Let's say from the digital agency, once they put the content, you can decide, hey, let's not give them access to the payment side. Some companies, they're like, hey, you can have access to everything. It's an open book. Let's see how the effort that you're putting in. But others also, they'll have different measures. They're like, hey, this information is only accessible by so and so, so and so and so and so. So once they see a post, they click on it. They're able to be redirected to another page. That page actually, it has a system embedded to it, which the consumer might not see, but the people in the back end, they're able to see. And then at that particular time, that particular system processes the payment. Once the payment is processed, it communicates to another system, let's say for delivery, like, hey, this particular person has made a particular purchase, payment confirmed. Now, these are the location for the delivery. Kindly arrange transportation. And then that system is communicated to another communicates to another body that's able now to do the actual delivery.
It's Business Today here, 102.3 Kiss FM. Jesse, the African Son, I'm your host. I'm speaking to the managing director at Blue Flamingo, their digital advertising agency. We're just looking into the future of advertising in this post-COVID era or within the COVID era on how to spend your money wisely, making the right decisions and taking on the right choices. Let's take a break and be back shortly to indulge more onto some specific cases. We'll also look at the challenges, why some brands are not willing to become vulnerable for someone else to look inside their businesses. We have a couple of minutes to finish this discussion. I hope that it's making sense for you on how to start rethinking. Because, again, I must mention, we in advertising, in as much as we understand what everyone is going through, we truly understand what your brand, what your organization is going through, that you have so many decisions to make. Some are very hard. Some are leading you to lose colleagues that you have had with, you've had time with in the company, and you don't want it. But again, even as we are being pushed to the wall, there are some decisions that need a second rethinking, especially a decision of advertising. The question is going to be, how do we advertise? How do we market? Because we are not all going to take the back seat and then think something will happen miraculously for this market to recover. No. It must be my brand doing something, your brand doing something, the government, on the other hand, doing something, and then together we create what we have called the economic recovery of the Rwanda market. It's important that we all do not go silent on the conversation of how do we keep the market active. If you are a bank, your customer needs to know if you have new solutions that are aligned to the experiences that they are having now. If you are into hospitality, it's time for your clients to know if you have put up some special packages that can fit within their budgets of the time. I think it's important that this communication is out there, and that's why you have platforms, and that's why we are discussing digital. For instance, if you can't do what you call below the line, you can't do experientials, maybe it is time for you to look at, hey, how many Rwandans are available on the platforms? How can I reach all these Rwandans to keep them engaged? So that we keep the flow of income. It's a cycle from the producers to the consumers and back to the producers. And the producers are really you. So today I'm speaking to the managing director here from Blue Flamingo, talking to me about digital marketing and could it be the future in this post-COVID era. Timothy, you have worked with Rwanda. I can't say, I must say I'm impressed with what I see of Rwanda. Actually, there's a lot of engagement when you go to Twitter. A lot of likes, lots of retweets. You've also worked with some other certain brands that do not get as much traction and engagement. And I wonder, what could it be, especially when you're working with a brand which is not necessarily a Rwandan brand, a foreign brand within Rwanda? Is it because of the attachment that we have to, for instance, Rwanda, vis-a-vis another brand which is not a national brand, that the engagement and traction becomes low?
Thank you very much. That's actually quite an interesting question. These might be contributed by different aspects. Number one, I might say you might find the budgets are different. They're not the same for the different brands. Number two, you might find the target audience are also different. When you look at a brand like Rwanda Air, this is an international brand. While else, when you look at a brand that is locally here, this is a local brand. Some of the way that us locally we communicate, especially online, most of the people, they find it easy communicating in Kinyarwanda. Now, Kinyarwanda is not a language that we say it's an international language per se. It's a national language. So people out there might not understand this particular language. So why would I follow this platform if I have no idea what they're saying? Now, I know there's works in place to have it incorporated into Google Translate and all that. But right now, let's face it, it's not yet there. It's not like the Chinese, the Spanish, where whatever language you post, somebody can easily click and then it's translated. But let's say until then, that's when I will start attracting people based on the content that you've put. Because the content might actually be very interesting, but the kind of people that you're targeting or might relate to this particular content might not have a clue what you're saying. Let's also look at the penetration when it comes to the market. Rwanda has actually done a really good job when it comes to being digital. They're really trying to push with the support from the government. They've really pushed the penetration, and truth be told, there's a huge spike. Things are different from when I came to where we are right now. I was very proud to see Rwanda, actually the youth, jump on a platform like TikTok, and they're able actually to create content by themselves. Some of the challenges that we've had with brands and consumers is like when you launch, let's say, a campaign like where you're pushing them to record some sort of short video. Let's say you started a challenge, it's always a headache. And the first week you might find like nobody has actually submitted, and you have to start talking to a few people. Hey, how hard is it to do this video? Why don't you record and post it? So that people can see others are actually participating and they start participating. So me seeing a huge number of people jumping into platforms like TikTok and they're doing these short videos, it's quite a huge plus. It shows that people now out there, they're getting it and they're able to interact. Now, back to your question again. Why is it like some brands are not getting this kind of engagement? So I'll give you an example. It might also come to, I don't want to mention brands, but it might also come to the kind of content that you guys are pushing. Some clients, I won't lie, they're big-headed. When you go on digital, they just want to see their product, their brand. When you start talking the conversation of, hey, let's start developing content for this, they're like, hey, we've already done an artwork for the billboard.
We have a logo.
Kindly put it out there. But now they forget, like, hey, a practical example that I can give is it's something like a WhatsApp profile photo. Now, let's say you're my friend, yes, I have your contact address. And then when I'm scrolling through WhatsApp, I see you've put an image, which is, let's say, black. The eye catches an attention very quickly. Within 30 seconds, I've already seen, and I know what I'm looking at. But if tomorrow I come and I find it's red, I might want to click and see what did Jesse put. That's the same thing that happens. So now where most brands go wrong is like they're going to launch the official banner for the campaign. Then that's what will run throughout every time they're communicating this particular product. But now remember, I'm already tired. It might get its span during the first phases, might get some engagement because let's say the content was good and it was the first time people were seeing it. But now, if they keep posting it, the same content, at some point I'll just get bored with it. And some of these clients, you try to talk to them, especially if they hear it might require some additional budget to do something different or something with what's happening. They're like, no, just use what we've given you. And I think that's where we're failing, especially when it comes to digital for brands in Rwanda.
Is this a mindset? Is it just because budgets do not exist or allow that to happen?
Some of them, you find it's an approval issue. Like when they plan, they don't involve the agencies. This is a problem that we've had with most of our clients. Of course, there's this fear of like, hey, we might involve this third party, and then the information leaks to competition. But what I've realized, some of the brands that involve the agency when they are planning a particular campaign, they get the best results. Because the agency has in mind, like, hey, this is what the client wants to achieve. So on my plan, on my proposal to help them achieve this via digital, I need to incorporate this. This is actually, especially if you're working with a professional agency, not everybody will think like this. So they'll make sure all this is catered for in the budget. And then when the client internally, they're arranging and they're planning the budget, and it's released, all this is incorporated. Now, what happens is like you find the clients, they'll go indoor, lock themselves in, come up with a product, come up with a concept. Now they want visuals and they want the agency to push. Then they just come with a brief to the agency a week before. Hey, we are launching this and this and this. This is who we are targeting. Give us the visual. Everything, it's a go. We are launching on this date. Now, once they launch, of course, the agency will come back, and also from the pressure from the client. Why are you not doing this? Why don't I see this? Why don't I see short videos? Why don't you go on the street and interview some people? Why don't you? But you see, all these things involves a bit of cost. Because let's say if we need to hire a camera, we need to go on the street, I will need transport, I will need my people, I need a video editor, I need all these things were not factored in the initial agreement. Like let's say we had, it wasn't part of it. But now the promo is out, and now they're here busy now saying, we need this, we need this, we need this. Of course, as much as they can put the pressure, the agency will just do to as much they can stretch. They can't do more than what they can offer.
I have a couple of questions, and I see the time is really fast spent. But first, the two questions. Why is it that digital marketing catches so quickly like a fire in a market like Nairobi and so slow in a market in a country that has said they want to be the leader in digital in the region and in Africa?
So I won't lie to you. Clients in Rwanda don't spend on digital. They spend very little compared to markets like Nairobi.
They're living parallel to the direction of the government.
What I've noticed, they would rather spend more on BTL, where they're seeing direct sales. So there's an issue of believability, I might say. Very few clients will actually spend heavily on digital. And even when you see at some of the trends, we know some of the big spenders, the telcos, the airline. But when it comes to other brands that are actually supposed to be spending, they won't spend a single.
Financial institutions.
Financial institutions won't. They'll spend very little. That's what I've seen.
And then they'll go and spend 20, 30 million
yes,
in an activation.
In an activation. Of which, now even some of these activations, they're actually doing the same thing you're telling them to do on digital, where they will even get a plus. I've never seen, very few activations have gone, and you see a brand has collected a huge crowd, right? It's packed. They have a huge rig. They have a lot of people attending. And then you go to the people that organized it on the client side, and you're like, out of these activations, how many sales did you make? They will never tell you the number. And what you see...
They give out freebies.
They give it out freebies, and half the population of the crowd that turned out were kids. They are below their purchasing means from the product that they're offering. And then you sit down and then you wonder, you're like, actually, these people are just blowing up money. But they're very impressed, capturing that image, showing that, hey, I was able to pull a huge crowd. And you're in these groups, you see them circulating like, I pulled a huge crowd of people, I pulled a huge... But when you ask them, so how many sales? And then, of course, there's this answer they like getting away with. These are our future clients.
Mm.
Then you sit down, you wonder, if you gave me the exact same budget, I would have actually turned...
Not even the exact same budget.
Even half of it. I would have targeted the exact people that you want to reach, people with spending power, people who actually need your product at that particular time when they need it. They'll be able to see your ad at the right time, and they'll be able to purchase from you.
Quickly, the issue of digital influencers, especially in Rwanda, is it something that you can really work on and sell to a client? The people that call themselves digital influencers, floating several proposals, is it something that you can sell to a client?
I don't want to discourage anybody.
But put at the back of your mind that I, as Kiss FM, I have the most number of followers on Facebook, over 300,000.
Yes.
I have over 200,000 on Instagram. Does that qualify me to be an influencer?
So I'll try as much as possible to
be nice,
to give an answer that will not create any beef with anybody or tarnish our name. But when you talk of influencer, who is an influencer? Let's go back to the definition. Maybe I can get away with it. You see, an influencer is somebody who has influence. Now, where most people get it wrong, I might have 100,000
followers.
But look at the content that I'm posting. When I post, how many people interact with me? Right? Now, try it again. if, let's say, for example, a particular brand, let me not mention names, they want, let's say, to come on the Kiss FM platform where you have followers and all that. I'm sure you might have seen it. You might see like the content that you guys are posting is actually getting a lot of engagement. But immediately they give you that fly and they tell you flight it. You wonder where are all these people.
Right.
You're getting like 20, 10, and yet when you do your own content, you're getting a lot of engagement. Now that's back to the point that I was talking about. Now, if this client came to Kiss FM and is like, hey, I have this particular brand, this product, and I need you to come up with a concept to push it. Kiss already knows their people. They know the kind of content they interact with, they relate with. And they'll be able now to tailor-make the content targeting the exact same people in their language, in their way. But now the problem will come when you go back to the client, you're like, hey, I need this additional budget to do this. They'll never give you this money.
They just want to fix a poster, send it to you, post it for us. It has no traction. And they give all kind of excuses. Your platform doesn't work.
Your platform doesn't work. And this is the biggest difference that I've seen between influencers and how we use them in Rwanda and other markets like Kenya or Uganda. Yes.
So what happens in Kenya? Give me an example.
So what I've seen, I'll give you an example of some of the bloggers that actually I follow. Somebody like This Is S, they will unbox. It will reach somewhere where they realize, hey, these people are actually content creators. They're already doing well. They are travel bloggers. They take a lot of pictures. And I want to sell a phone. So why don't I give them my phone? And they go with it. So actually what they'll be talking to people is like, all these good images they're taking, they're using my camera. You see? So you're speaking to some kind of people they're able now to see for themselves, like, hey, this phone is taking these good pictures. Let's say it's a product. They're actually using it. Not only just putting a flyer there where it looks as if they're paid. There's a way of even blogging where you can even have a blogger compare your product or your brand with 4 other competition. And they put it there. They have all the advantages and disadvantages. And then at the end of it, of course, because he's paid, he's going to emerge and say, all in all, if I was to pick, I'll pick so-and-so because of 1, 2, 3. You see, that's a good sale. But these posters that we slap there on influencers, they never work.
So you want to say that if you are to go digital, you must come ready with a strategy.
Exactly. Don't just rush out there. Most of people and brands will go wrong. I've met brands that have been hurt before, where somebody will go, do a $20 course online, and from there they are calling themselves a digital agency. And then they go to a brand like, hey, we can do your digital at this cost. And then they get the deal. They start now, when all these questions start coming in, they can't deliver. And then, of course, the contract will be terminated. And then let's say when the real agency come, they're like, hey, this is our budget. They're like, no, I used to work with so-and-so for 100K. You're like, you see, that's why you got this result. So if like you don't have a strategy of what you want to gain and what you want to achieve, you don't have to always start big. You can start from somewhere. Small. Look for a professional agency. Tell them this is the budget I have, right? Show me what I can do with this. And this is what I want to achieve. They'll always give you a strategy based on that particular budget. And you'll be able to weigh it out, and it will go eventually growing.
Do you think companies that already own a Facebook account, a Twitter account, Instagram account, when they say they are going to do it themselves, in-house, are they able to make the same traction like when they have someone who is thinking for them?
They're lying to themselves. And I always tell my client, you see, that's why they fail. Because what they'll do, they'll just hire one person. This particular one person will be everything. Will be the one posting, will be the one responding, will be the one coming with the content. This person is not a machine. He's going to get burnt out. He has nobody to share ideas with. He has nobody to brainstorm with. Yes, I know this is a measure of cutting costs, but they'll never get an output as if they had a professional agency. You see, it involves a lot of things. Like, for instance, how we structure ourselves. When a client comes, because every time we're pitching, they always think it's one particular person that's going to handle the account. But every single client that comes, we give them a team of about not less than 3 people. no matter the budget. And everybody has his law. These are dedicated team on this particular account. Then remember, there's the supporting role from the strategy, from graphics, from photographers, and all that. Remember now, the three, you need to have somebody who's like, every time is going to manage the client to get the information. When this person is doing this, going for this meeting, they're not online, right? They're attending a meeting. They're not handling this particular platform. So you need somebody who will be left on this particular platform. Is the content up? Is there any message we need to change? Is there anything that is coming up? What content should I post? And then now you need somebody to handle customer service. This person basically has all the FAQ fact sheets ready. When a client comes and asks a question, these are now customers. They're able to pull it out and they respond within a very short time period. You know? If you don't structure yourself like this, you won't handle. And you see, it's not only three. Three might be the minimum, but depending on the traffic you have, that's how you go growing to be able to face the traffic that is coming in.
So basically, every organization, every brand needs to go digital, because when I look at, for instance, and I'm sorry to mention, but I have to mention MTN. MTN has so many queries online. And that means at any particular time, there should be someone answering back to a query which has been raised, and that they have all the information regarding that particular service or product.
Exactly my point. And what we've done as an agency, we've maintained a response rate of not more than 15 minutes. So we know if a query comes to the platform, within 15 minutes, it has been responded to. It doesn't mean like one or two might pass by, or somebody might go to an old post and comment or something like that. But we've tried as a culture, as a business, to ensure we maintain a response rate of 15 minutes to every query.
I've seen the same for Rwanda Police, and I think for RIB, Rwanda Investigation Bureau.
Exactly.
These also need to go digital, and they must have a strategy.
Exactly. It's not just going to one particular platform. And then something also I need to emphasize is like the website is the only digital platform when it comes to online that you own. Because you might have all these social media platforms, but remember, tomorrow they might close. Zuckerberg might wake up and decide, you know what, I'm tired with this digital stuff, I'm going to farming. What do you do? And he pulls out Facebook. So they need to use this platform as basis to correct numbers, but to push traffic to their website.
How would you work with an organization like the National Bank of Rwanda, which is quite sensitive with information?
Yes.
They're not just going to give to an agency all their information to work with it.
So what we do with such brands, we've worked with such brands that are very sensitive with information. Once we have a dedicated team to handle an account, that's why we don't want them to mix with different accounts. Basically, this particular person becomes like an employee of that particular brand, let's say the National Bank. He has to go sit with them and receive some sort of training. What do you guys do? What is sensitive? How should I handle this? Now, we always sign an NDA to make sure whatever is shared with us, it's confidential, and you'll never find it anywhere else. We also create some sort of like a WhatsApp group or an email group where all the relevant parties are there. So if this particular account manager sees something that, hey, this is different, is able to rise with the team from the National Bank. Like, hey, there's this sensitive issue that has come, kindly advise how we need to handle it. Then based on their advice, they're able to craft a strategic message and give it to this particular consumer.
With that said, do you think companies in Rwanda are prepared to face digital transformation?
Yes. I would say they're prepared. The only thing I would say, they're scared. They don't know who to go to. They don't know where to start. They're a bit confused because digital is one of the most cheapest ways of marketing you can easily jump on. So if they're able to put money to push the heavy part, which is now the BTL activation and stuff, then digital will be the cheapest because they actually spend a fraction of their budget. But what they need to do, they need to find the right partner. They need to know what they want to achieve, who are they talking to, which platform will be relevant to these people that we want to target, and which agency should we partner with, based, let's say, on the previous work, based on the expertise, and how they're proposing to handle my platforms.
When they look at content creation in Rwanda, what is the future? Do you see a lot of vibration from content creation that is consumable for this market?
Yes. I've actually seen a huge spike when it comes to content creation. something that was not there when I came to the market. Things like on YouTube, some of these skits that are coming up, some of these artists, music. These are content that I see people actually creating. Talk about TikTok. These are content they're actually creating themselves. Some of them even with zero budget, with just their devices, with just their phones. And they're able to create this content and publish them out there. And you can really see potential if they're able to pull crowds with no budget. Now, imagine if they had a brand that would creatively partner or boost them to strategically place their products and services. They are able to do wonders. And with that said, we are open even to give free consultation for anybody or any brand that needs advice on how to do it. Free of charge. All they have to do is just go to our website. That's www.blueflamingo.digital. And then they go to free consultation, and they'll be able to see the team of experts that is ready, and they're able to.
I'm going to send my accountant with a pro forma invoice for that advertisement.
That's the whole digital.
But thank you so much, team, for coming through today to have this
Thank you for
conversation
having
with
me.
me. Jess, the African Sun here on Business Today. I have been speaking to Timothy Kimathi. He is the managing director at Blue Flamingo. They are a digital agency to just give an insight on the future of marketing. And these conversations, of course, get to continue as we look toward recovering the economy of Rwanda. We are saying do not sit back. Find every means to jump broom into the new normal that we are readying ourselves for. 102.3 Kiss FM. Jess, the African Sun, saying bye-bye. God bless you and enjoy the new week.